it's Halloween, and instead of talking about mediumship, shall we talk about some of our ghost experiences that we've had over the years?
Yeah, I think that's good because there is definitely a paranormal world out there, and use the word paranormal lightly. Spirit interactions are probably better suited, at various locations that we've been to, and we've covered a hell of a lot, haven't we, Martin, between the two of us?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also as well, Ian, is I think the reason we have a reputation that when things happened or allegedly happened, we were always very hard on the evidence. And
Definitely.
so if we had a bang, if we had a tap, or if we saw something, we tried to replicate it. We tried to work out what it was. And anybody who came on a ghost hunt with myself or Ian or both of us together, we literally tried to work out absolutely every aspect of it. And then we would actually say that was something unusual, that was something paranormal. So
yeah,
some of the stories that we'll talk about today, we absolutely worked out beyond everything that, but we weren't left with any other option but to say that was something really unusual. That was, something absolutely paranormal, spirit interaction, as you say. One place that stood out for me, and at one time, we were doing events there probably once or twice a month. So it was a regular place that I was visiting, and that was Dudley Castle, which is in the West Midlands of the United Kingdom. Dudley Castle, it's a Norman castle. Then obviously it was used for the next 600-700 years, and it's bang in the middle of a zoo, which was quite petrifying because sometimes you'd be walking around at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning from one location to another, and you would hear 3 or 4 lions roaring, and it would sound like that they were in the same area as you.
Yeah.
You'd be kind of walking around thinking, oh my God, are the lions loose, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And you're walking around with 20 or so members of public, so you're thinking, come on, get in quick. I don't want to lose anyone tonight. So
wasn't there a crazy badger that kept on running around that place?
There was a crazy
one, I mean.
Well, it's interesting you'd mentioned the crazy badger, because one of the experiences we had was you've got Dudley Castle, and it's got walls all the way around it, and then it's got a central courtyard. But just on the outskirts was a meerkat enclosure. Yes, there was meerkats there. And there was an old cottage. And the cottage, it dates back, I think, to around the 1600s. And originally it was the site of a barn. And then it became the zookeeper's cottage. And apparently in the 1950s and 60s, one of the zookeepers used to live there with a cheetah. And people used to come round and see him taking the cheetah for a walk, or the cheetah would be in his living room when people would see him. And he was a bit of a character. So anyway, one night, right at the beginning when we started investigating Dudley, we were there one particular night, and I was talking to the tour guide, Jamie, and he said to me, as we walk past here, please be quiet because it's the zookeeper's cottage. So I told everybody to be quiet. So we all walked past, and there was a light on in the window. The curtains were closed. They were kind of a reddy mauve sort of colour. You could see somebody walking around. So I said, shh, to everybody, be quiet. We all walked past, and then we continued on our way because we were going to another location. And this happened probably, 3-4 times, something like that. And one morning I said to Jamie, I said, what was going off in the zookeeper's cottage last night? I said, the lights were on until like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. He said, what lights? I said, the light, the zookeeper. I said, I don't know if he's ill or something. He said, the zookeeper doesn't live there. I said, well, who lives there? He said, come with me. We finished our breakfast and we went outside and we went to the zookeeper's cottage. Yeah. And he pushed open the door, and inside it was completely stripped and ripped out. There was no plaster on the walls. There was rubbish on the floor. I said, nobody's lived in here for about 30 years. And I said, well, why did you say be quiet? It's the zookeeper's house. He said, I was joking with you. And I said, but we all saw the light. And I said, and since then we've kind of moved from location to location, and we've seen the lights on, and we actually thought somebody was in there. He said, no, nobody lives in there at all. There wasn't even curtains on the wall, curtains on the window, Ian. So how did we see a light, figures moving around, and curtains? So did we see ghost curtains?
Well, no, the thing is, as we speculated, whether you look at it as purely the stone tape theory, the essence is that there must be some sort of capture there, maybe even in the Earth's Earth's magnetic field, that gives a resonance of how it used to be. When you walk around the inside of buildings, normally, you can get, they have red curtains, they have blue curtains, the carpet, or you just get, it's all in full colour. So the facets there is that the people were in the right mind. They were obviously wanting to be scared or wanting to have a paranormal occurrence, and then so that mindset is open to the possibility of that happening, and there it is. I do not feel that you could say it's a mass hallucination, because
it wasn't like we were seeing a figure and therefore a hallucination. It was literally the house living room, or what we perceived to be the living room, had red curtains, had a light at the other side of the curtain, so it was lighting them up, and there was definitely figures walking around, or one or two figures were walking around, and it just looked like a normal house scene. It just literally looked like an old cottage with lights. And it's interesting, a person who became one of our members of staff was actually on that event, and she clearly remembered the pink curtain, pinky red curtains, and the light on there. And when she took events, for a while she told people, "Can you please be quiet because the zookeeper lives here?" so it was such a weird experience. And I think, as you say, it is kind of a recording in that we were walking past, and maybe it was some sort of resonance that was happening at the time of. Maybe they were having an argument, maybe there was something happened, and no, there was no murders or killings or anything. It's something of emotional content happened, and it recorded it. And as we walked past, it just kept on recording. It kept on replaying this recording. It's interesting, though. What is interesting is once we found out that it wasn't the zookeeper's cottage, I think it was only seen once again where the lights were on. Yeah. But apart from that, we never saw it again.
No, I never saw that in all my visits.
Really, really weird. And I think the other thing that stands out for Dudley, there are loads and loads of experiences. I could tell you loads of experiences. Yeah. Sightings of a girl ghost, a monk, stone throwing, coin throwing, playing around with evidence. But the two things I wanted to highlight was firstly that just the mundaneness of a house seemingly coming alive for a night and us not realizing. Yeah. And then secondly, I think it's mine and Ian's favourite, possibly, is without fail the last weekend of August, and it was always on a Saturday, the last weekend of August, we would have, without a doubt, we'd be sat in the Undercroft, which was a Norman Undercroft, and originally kind of like the medieval house. Then it became a part of the chapel. But we would hear, without a doubt, and I know what you're going to say, it was cannons.
Definitely, without a shadow of doubt. The flow of was vibrating. I was in the forces, so I've been close to live fire demos, of tanks and field guns. So I have an understanding of what A, the sound is, and B, how the energy sort of permeates through the ground in that rumbling, So to me, I thought myself, that's like a cannon. Honestly, it's just an amazing experience.
I must say, we used to book it on purpose. I think the first time we booked Dudley Castle was 2001, and we experienced that August experience. We realised that weekend was consistently an active weekend. So I think between 2002 and 2011, I think, roughly, we always had that weekend. Ian, you must have done majority of those on that weekend. And consistently, if we didn't have the cannons, there was other activity that kicked off that weekend.
And it was just endless. I used to look forward to it, and I was skeptical when people, used to read stories or see the documentaries on your TV. An anniversary ghost, so and so walked around the parapet on the anniversary of a passing, and I thought, what a load of crap. Until I went to Dudley Castle, and I thought, there's got to be something in this.
It really was.
Again,
it was boom, boom. It was really bizarre. It was absolutely. And I always remember a few years later, I actually got a chance to climb up onto the top of the Undercroft. There was some scaffolding and some safe walkways put up. I went up the stairs and I walked into the ruins and had a look at the Undercroft. When I got an overhead picture, it wasn't like it was connected to anything, because it actually wasn't connected to the rest of the building. There was actually a walkway or an alleyway in between the rest of the building. So it was just literally the Undercroft was just a apex building, and that's all it was. There was nothing that I could see that could cause the vibration. Directly behind it was just a small swimming pool with seals. Now, we never had the cannons at all. I don't remember hearing them any other time apart from that weekend.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, really bizarre place. And again, I think it comes back down to sort of ghost energy, repeating ghost energy on an anniversary. And they're just two very weird experiences that stood out for me at Dudley. I just thought they were so weird and typical of what the paranormal is and what ghosts are about, really, is that what you can imagine you think a ghost experience will be, sometimes it can be as mundane as some pink curtains with a light behind, or hearing every weekend at the end of August the sound of cannons firing somewhere.
I remember my first visit there was the 5th of June 2003, and I only know that because I keep records of where I've been, and I used to write reports. I was doing a little bit of mediumship with the audience, and remember that suit of armour, that's what plate. Yeah. And that was in the back, and I said, I've got a young lady, she looks about this old. She wasn't called Emily, mind, and she was about such and such old. And then suddenly there's somebody hit the breastplate, bang, and everybody just, including Jamie, everybody just did one of those Mexican waves with their bodies trying to get them from the back to the front.
It was like World War Z, I think. It was like the zombies. They were climbing on top of each other to run away from this piece of rattling old armor. It was interesting because the timing of it goes beyond coincidence, because Ian really was sensing and feeling something in that area, was talking about it, and then suddenly it went and then everybody kind of started climbing on top of each other to get to me and Ian. And me and Ian stood there thinking, hang on, what do we do here? You imagine sort of 30 people climbing on top of each other running to you, it's kind of, what are we going to do?
That was ever so funny. I like that, though, the World War Z sort of thing.
It was, wasn't
it? It sets the scene. I just found it funny, the fact, like say, Spirit is saying we're here and people are legging it, bless them.
What's one of the weirdest experiences you've ever had?
One of them that sticks in my mind is a farmhouse in Bradwell's, Bradwell's farmhouse. I think that's down
Milton Keynes, Milton Keynes way.
Yeah, and I turned up early because I was doing a little bit of hosting as well as the mediumship and that. I'd had the code sent to me, and when you put the code in, you open the door, there's like a beep beep, as you come in and close the door after you. So I walked around the building, put all the tea and coffee in the kitchen, and then all the lights were on. So I went upstairs just to do the health and safety check, had a look around where the rooms were, and then I came into the place I went into last was like a cafeteria type of thing. I think there was 6 to 8 tables, 6 by 4, solid wood, and then there was solid wooden chairs with their seat on top of the table, the legs pointing upwards. And I walked in. I can remember saying, "Oh well, that's a job I got to do for the public arrive, and I'll get everything nice and sorted." I thought, in the meantime, I got there earlier than I think, or than I thought I would do. So I just went and had a couple of cups of coffee and sat in the room next door, which is only a wall's width between the two rooms. And then I thought, I'll go and put those tables up. So I came back into not knowing the layout of the place. I walked all the way around to the front, not knowing there was two doors there to the same room. And I walked in, and every chair was stood on the floor, all pushed under the table, set up, ready. I thought, hey, and I questioned myself because I thought, I didn't hear wooden chairs being moved onto a wooden floor. I didn't hear the door go, it goes beep beep. I didn't hear that go, and I was only in the room next door. Now, I wasn't scared. I was just thought myself, am I overtired and not realised that the chairs were already set up and thinking this? And I thought, I remember chiding myself. I said I should have took a bloody photo on walking round, which normally I do as a reference point in case anything gets moved later. So I thought, this is a bit weird. So I was okay. So I thought, right, I'll just pop in and see the caretaker, as it was, it wasn't that late in the evening. So I knocked on the door, and I said, "Oh, sorry to bother you," and I mentioned what had just happened, and he just sort of smirked at me. He said, "No," said none of my lads have been in, and he sort of smiles, as if to say this has happened before. Do you know what I mean? I went back in, had a cup of coffee, and waited for the team and the public to turn up. I was just, first of all, I said thank you for helping me set up, but I thought I never heard a noise, never heard a dicky bow, nothing, a dicky bird. Sorry, I never heard.
That's really bizarre, isn't it? That all those chairs were moved, but you didn't actually hear anything. Now, even if somebody had come in like a caretaker, you'd have heard them walking around, you'd have heard them moving chairs.
Yeah.
Did anything else happen at Bradwell's?
Obviously, we have a little sum up after the evening. It was a bit of a strange night, energy wise. People were getting quite scared. And when we're doing the wrap up, I was stood to one end of the room, facing in with the crowd. And my teammate was next to me. We're just chatting away, and then somebody noticed, in gasp, there was one of these tall units. You put plates in the top, and then you have the drawers.
Oh, dresser, yeah.
Yeah, solid wood, as old, really old thing. And one of the drawers just pushed out. It wasn't slow, but it wasn't fast enough to take the drawer completely out of its housing. It just opened, and I went, hey, and somebody said, oh, it's got string to it. I said, whoa, I said, I've not touched it at all. So I said to somebody, can you come and stand here? I gently closed the drawer too, and then I sort of, well, anyway, what do you reckon tonight, folks? What was your best part? What was this? And then the drawer beneath it, that opened, to much squealing to the person who was then. and I said it wasn't me, and they were just looking at me, and I said, folks, can we give, can we say thank you to Spirit, whatever. And these little things happening, drawers opening. That table thing, I was, but it didn't. I was there for two nights, and nothing of the same, with the chairs happened the second night.
I mean, this is a crazy thing to say, actually, but I've always felt that Spirit are one step ahead of us, and actually they are. When I've had multiple cameras set up, why is one camera turned off, which is the one that could have actually filmed the experience, and the other two that are just slightly out of view of when something kicks off, and why are they recording but not the one? And it's like Spirit turns off that particular camera or whatever. But it is how Spirit operates, and often you get this feeling that you will go into one room and Spirit is operating in another room on purpose. And one location I think we should talk about, it's a location that really sort of threw me the first time I went, was Cusworth Hall near Barnsley, near Doncaster. It was such a weird place, really old building, but activity wise it was really weird. I remember going into the cellar there, and the first time I went, and above me it sounded like almost like a dance hall. It sounded like somebody was having a dance.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what's going off here? So there's me and my little groups sat there thinking, what's going on? And you could hear these people skipping around, dancing, talking, and I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. So I kind of went upstairs, and there was nobody there. In fact, they were in. Was it the extension? I think it was. Or
no, I think they were on the top floor, weren't they?
Yeah, it was just bizarre, and that sort of ground floor. I didn't do the cellar again, but that sort of ground floor was a very weird place for me. I always remember we were on the stairs of Cusworth Hall, and this is one of the last events I did. We were on the stairs, and as we looked down the corridor, we saw a door open, and then the toilet door open, which had a light in there, and then it closed behind itself, but there was nobody there. It was like, and everybody went, "Who was that?" I said, "Did you see it? Could you see anyone?" They said, "No." I said, Well, no, I couldn't see anybody either. There was nobody there, But one door opened, and then the toilet door opened, and when the toilet door opened, it lit up all the corridors, so we could see. There was nobody there. Nobody opened the door at all. It was a weird place. I kept having experiences like that. What sort of experiences did you have?
Most I found for myself going in the kitchen area, it was very, very bizarre. It's a little bit of a cold place, not open windows, but it's just stone, so it really was cold. But we used to have we would hear footsteps coming up to the door to get into the room, and you could hear them because it's a stone flagged floor. And then there was nobody there. We had the door handle turned, and I would say to somebody, would you please stand by the door in case you hear somebody coming up? And they just, I ain't doing that, in case somebody did. But it was very, very bizarre. There's some very, very strange energies there. And like I say, as we could make a whole podcast just on one venue. But
yeah, easily.
I found it a very interesting place. I had one experience on the very, very top floor. I think it used to be the servants' quarters, and one of the groups came to the door and said, "Oh, hi Ian, Simon there." I said, "No, mate." I said, "I just heard you talking to him." I said, "No, there's me." I said, "No, there's not. There's Simon here as well." And I said, "No." And Simon was in the cellar, but people heard him talking to me. And I thought, well, no, I was right the other way of the end of the corridor. But it was bizarre. I was hearing noises coming up that stairs. You could hear the thump, 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 and I thought somebody's coming up. I thought it's one of the groups telling to go down, and there was just nobody there.
Well, we had a similar experience, and one of the last times, again, we was on the stairs. I could sense spirit moving upstairs. For me, and this is my only personal experience, it almost feels like an energy field is moving around. I can sense it above, I was on the ground floor, but I could feel that there was energy above me moving around, and I could feel it moving away. So I was visualizing and sensing at the same time. So I was thinking, right, I could feel it moving to the left of me, that means it's in that room. So I could feel it moving around. If some of you are thinking, well, why is spirit walking around and doing this while we're on a ghost hunt? I think looking back on that, the reason why is because it wanted me to go into that room. Mm-hmm. Now, I didn't go into that room, and then it became physical. And what happened was we was on the stairs, and quite clearly we heard footsteps, what sounded like, I would almost say like a lady Victorian and with hard shoes, and I could hear it on the wood. It walked on the stairs, and we thought it was somebody else coming to see us. And as it walked around the corner, there was nothing there. So everybody started screaming and running in the opposite direction. And being the good event organizer, I shouted to everybody, "Switch your torches on!" because,
run.
Keep running, but just switch your torches on. And I'm sat there on the stairs by myself, while the spirit's walking towards me. But it was a good experience. I mean, and this is the thing is spirit was very, very active there and willing to talk. And just to sum up for Cusworth, the best experience was the last event, wasn't it, that we did?
Yes,
yes. And there is actually a newspaper article online about this. The very last experience, we were in the cellar, and there's a little room that's been converted to a Victorian schoolroom. It wasn't a Victorian schoolroom, but they've converted it for school visits. And we weren't investigating in that room. We'd been in, shown everybody. I think Simon, who was one of the organisers, he checked everything over. Simon is shall we say, a sceptical believer, I'd like to say. And we came out and we started to do a vigil in the corridor next to the school. We kept hearing noises in there. We kept hearing bangs, footsteps, all sorts of noises. It was a very, very weird night. We went back in because there was a noise, and it sounded like a school rubber being thrown or something like that. It was definitely like a weird, dull noise. We said, right, okay, can we have 2 volunteers to go in and do a check with Simon so they can, so if something's moved that. And they went in and they all spotted it at the same time. And there was a massive handprint on the chalkboard.
Yeah, it was massive and all.
It was a big hand. It was bigger than my hand. I don't have particularly big man hands, but it was a really big hand. one thing that struck me, and I said, well, let's try and replicate this on another part of the board. I put my hand on the board, and when I did it and took my hand away, there was no imprint. And the only way I could get my hand to look like that was actually to wet it slightly and then put it on, and it removed the chalk dust that was underneath. So whatever touched it removed the chalk dust. Now, I'm not saying the hand was wet, but I'm saying that what energy or whatever it was, it removed the chalk dust and left the imprint of this massive male hand. It had to be a male hand. And it was definitely not on there before, because luckily one of the attendees came into the room and actually took a number of photographs, and the area where the hand was, there was no handprint. So we actually had evidence that it happened during our vigil, and we know 100% that we all stayed in the room next to it, not actually going to that room, and there was no other access to that place either.
No. You have to, like I say, you have to go. I think I was in one of the side rooms, wasn't I? So that with a small group of people. So somebody would have to walk past me in that room to get to you.
Absolutely. Nobody could have got in there. Nobody could have faked it, because we had the backup of the previous photograph. But there was a physical handprint left there. And for me, what makes this ultimately something paranormal is if I just slapped my hand on the board, it left no imprint. Yeah. Or it left such a faded imprint, you couldn't really see it. But that hand looked like it was a wet hand. It looked like it had been created by... whatever it did, it removed the chalk dust.
When you think about it, if it was one of the group, there would have been water on the floor where they used one of their water bottles, the water from the water bottles, to the hand. And
also, somebody would be walking around with a chalky hand, and it would be no doubt on their, it would be on their coat, it would be on their trousers, it would be, somebody would have spotted it, and nobody had enough time to do it. Nobody had enough time to kind of fake it. So there is weirdness out there, isn't there, Ian, if you go out to look for it?
There is, definitely. One of the things I like to add is people have this belief, where if it's Halloween, if it's a full moon, that things are going to be a lot more sparked off. And now, being a analyst, Martin, bless you kindly let me do some little experiments, and I gathered information for a little while from people, nothing personal, not their name, contact number, or anything like so. It was less active on a full moon or a Halloween than it was throughout the summer or the winter, to be honest. It just seems to me either the right mix of people, or it was just active on some nights and not necessarily Halloween. It had nothing to bear on it other than people's
expectation, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a killer, to be honest.
I think you're right, that expectation does kill people's interactivity with spirit and ghosts. But secondly, is we used to do a lot of events. Our most popular month was actually August, believe it or not. We used to run up to 35 events in August, compared to October, which used to probably have about 25, 29 events in the individual ghost hunts. But in August, when it's light, people used to say, I don't think I'm going to sense anything tonight. But we used to have the most active times. August used to be a cracking month. It used to be light. It used to be warm. It didn't used to be, -4 like we experienced in Woodchester Mansion once, or Dudley Castle, in fact, where somebody actually got flu, I think, because it was that cold. But they did come in nightclub clothing for some reason.
Yeah, I know, one or two. What about that battlefield we did? That was August, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was August, and we had some really good experiences. We went to Sedgemoor Battlefield. We have talked about it before, but again, we were in the open air. We could hear a motorway. In fact, we had a helicopter fly over at one time. Yeah. But we had some good experiences and some good EVP as well. We had some good responses and fantastic spirit communication with Ian. And we've talked about it before. We'll have to actually put the video up on. I've still got the video, and we'll have to put the report onto our Essentia 2 YouTube channel. So if you like to go onto YouTube, all of our podcasts are on there, are available if you want to listen to them. So let's wrap this up. We hope you all have a fantastic Halloween, and whatever you're doing, whether you celebrate it or not, or whether you just decide to hide away and watch something on television, whatever you do, whatever you're doing, enjoy it, and may your God be with you.
Yeah. Hey, I like that. Thank you, Martin, and wish you well, everybody who listens. Bless you.